Kalnapilis Royal Select.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. This is yet another one from the Baltic region or the Baltic states, and it is from Lithuania, and it is the Kalnapilis Royal Select. Now this, if you didn't know, is one I picked up from the shop round the corner. A new one has just opened, and they had a load of beers in there from strange countries. I'd never seen these beers before, so thought I've got to try them out. And I originally, in my stupidity, thought they were Czech Pilsners. Turns out they were from Latvia and Lithuania. I think there was an Estonian one in there as well. And to be honest, in general, they've been mediocre to disappointing. And I suppose it stands to reason because a lot of the beers were distributed and owned by either the Carlsberg group or another big conglomerate, the Finnish one, is it Olvi? But they're owned by them, and obviously they have got big inroads into the export market in Europe, and that's how this and the other beers have ended up in a shop around the corner. The only one that did impress me was a Latvian beer, which for the life of me I can't remember. It's reviewed on the channel. It was an unfiltered, almost Keller beer type style of beer, and that was about the best one. Everything else, genuinely not good, to be honest. So with some trepidation, I thought I'd review this one. Now, I did do some research for this, and it's quite interesting because it's got some, I wouldn't say unique ingredients, but from a sort of a cheap beer perspective, they are pretty unique. Now, obviously, if you put the name of a hop or a malt into a beer, it really doesn't mean much. It just means the type of malt. In regard to the quality of the ingredients, well, you know, you can't really gauge that on any label or on the side of a can. You just have to taste it and then work it out from there. So basically, this is what I am doing. Now, these are owned by a company called Royal Unibrew. They're quite big in the drinks market or the beverage market, and they not only do beer, but they do soft drinks, they do mineral water and some other alcoholic drinks as well. And they own quite a few brands, and Kalnapilis is one of the brands. But before that got taken over, that was a independent brewery, and it was based in Lithuania. It was founded in 1902. It got taken over by a couple of people before Royal Unibrew did in 2001, and now it's owned by Royal Unibrew, hence the reason it's round the corner in the supermarket. This Royal Unibrew also own various other brands, as I've just mentioned. A couple of them are, the Faxe beer, Faxe, F-A-X-E, that is one of their beers. The Lapinkulta beer, if you've ever been to Sweden or Finland, you'll see Lapinkulta. It's a very popular beer. It's a Finnish beer, but it's one of the most popular beers in Sweden. I know, I've drank quite a lot of it in Sweden. To be honest, it ain't great, but I got it for free because we were doing a gig over there, so I wasn't complaining. And to be honest, as I said before, it looks quite good. But another thing that's making me think it's a little bit better than the rest is that it's won a few awards, and it won 2 awards in not this particular beer, but some of their beer has won 2 awards in the Beer Olympics in 2004, and it was in the Helles and Bock categories. So a strong beer, I think the strong beer they do is 7.5, and they also did a lager, which I'm assuming is this stuff, but I could be wrong, and that also won a gold in the Beer Olympics of 2004. So with that in mind, let's take a look and see what's in this beer. as I always like with these beers, it's a full pint. It is 568ml. That is an imperial pint, and that will do me fine because I'm fed up with 440ml cans. It's 5.6%, so quite a bit on the ABV there. It is a lager, as far as I can tell. A lot of it, well, all of it is in Lithuanian. There is a sticker on the side. I'm going to attempt to read it. Ingredients: water, barley malt, wheat, hops, and that's it. The IBUs in this are 15, so that is quite sweet for a lager. Normally your IBUs in lagers and pilsners normally tend to be on the higher end of the 20s and early 30s. Lagers, you're looking at sort of anything up to 25 to 27 IBUs. If you don't know what IBUs are, the International Bittering Units, basically tells you how bitter the beer is. It has to be taken into context though of which style of beer you're drinking. So for example, if you're drinking an IPA that's 40 IBUs, 40 is quite high, but IPAs are quite bitter with them American resinous type hops and grapefruit hops, which give it a bitter flavour. So it's all in context really. But this is 15, which is quite sweet for a lager in my opinion. You don't see wheat beers that sweet. Generally, they're normally higher. They're normally about 17 or 20. Between 17 and 20, I should say. So this is quite sweet. So I'm going to bear that in mind. There may be a reason that it's sweet, and that could be the Cara malt that's used in it. It's Cara amber malt, which is a type of crystal malt, and that malt it gives it a darker colour. It's normally the sort of stuff you find in Czech pilsners. It gives it like an amber colour. And you sometimes find it in Bock and some other German beers as well, which have a darker tint to them. And it's as I say, it's a crystal malt. And if you're not sure what a crystal malt is, that is basically a sweeter type of malt. It gets the crystal name because it goes through a special process where it's watered. The little shoots are produced on the malted barley. That will in turn produce sugar. And just as the shoots are starting to grow, they're kilned, which kills off these shoots, but the sugar is left, and that translates into a sweeter type of malt. There's two hops on here, Eldorado and Select. Now Eldorado, that's quite an unusual one to use in a lager. It's an American style hop. It's very citrusy, mango, pineapple, that sort of flavour that you get from it. But the other hop, and it should be sort of a bit of a giveaway with the name, are Select hops. Now Select hops are not a noble hop, but they sort of ape what a noble hop does. Quite spicy. They sometimes use them for bittering as well. It's like a dual purpose hop, but if you use it for bittering, I think you're sort of wasting it really. It's more of a flavouring aromatic type hop, and it's, as I say, it's spicy. It's got that peppery flavour to it that gives it a bitterness, but it's also got like a woody type flavour, some berries and some flowery or floral type notes. So it's quite an interesting hop. So altogether, on paper, this looks quite interesting. Let's see what it's like in the glass. Right, here you go. And yeah, that's dark. That looks like a Czech Pilsner or a Maybach. It's got an amber hue to it. Can you see that? That's slightly darker. Very much like a Czech Pilsner. What are we getting on the nose? Sulphur. Oh, definitely some herbal notes. And now the grains are coming through as well. Sweet, grainy type malty flavours. Wow. Quite strong too. This is going to be an interesting one. Now, if the aroma's anything to go by, this should be pretty decent. But I have been let down in the past where it has been showing quite promising signs from the aroma, and then the flavour has been dire, and vice versa as well. There's a distinct herbal, flowery type note from them hops. I do keep getting wafts of it, and then it dies down. It's weird. But then there's them malty, grainy, sweet type aromas that come through as well. Now obviously this is filtered, so there's no sediment or suspended yeast in that. There it is in ye olde glass. Interesting. Let's get it down the hatch. Bottoms up. Wow, that is definitely sweet. There is no hop character on that at all. No bitterness. It's a very sweet lager. First thing, there's a little metallic tint to it. I want to get that out of the way. I'm getting that on the initial mouthful. On the palate, there is a little bit of the herbal character from the hops. No real bitterness to this at all. It's all about the sweet malt. And I think they've added something else to this as well. I think there must be some sort of glucose in there. The 15 IBUs that they talk about, yeah, it definitely is. There's no trace of bitterness on this at all. So any ideas of a pilsner or even a spicy bitter finish on the arse end of it, forget it. It ain't there. This is all about the sweetness. Let me dive in again. That metallic note is still there, and it's sort of putting a dampener on the hop character. You can taste the hop character. It's trying to get through, but that metallic note that's just residing on the top sort of kills it off. But the finish is all about the malt. It's very sweet, very malty. Not the worst beer in the world, I will say that. Let me dive in again. I'm seriously wondering whether there is glucose in this. They don't say it on here. They don't mention it at all. There's no trace of ethanol on this at 5.6%, which is good. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say there is something that's been added to it. But all in all, it isn't the worst beer in the world. It's certainly better than the usual macro brewed crap that you get from around here. It's just that sweetness. If there was a little bit more hop character on that, that would have been really nice. It does remind me of a Bock beer. I think that's what it's trying to do. That's the style. If I had to pin it down, then this for me is attempting to copy a German Bock or Maibock or something like that. But the sweetness is just killing it. If it wasn't so sweet, then this wouldn't be bad at all. But oh, I don't know. It's just a bit. I wouldn't say it's putting me off, and it's meaning that it's sickly sweet. It's just a little bit sweeter than your average lager. There's some grainy notes there on there, definitely. Quite full-bodied as well. Now, if it contains wheat, then that's going to be the factor in it that's giving it quite a bit of a body to it. But I can get what the hops are trying to do in this. There is some floral and spicy aromas and flavours to this, but they're just not getting through. Whatever they've used to sweeten this has just muted them flavours. But you can get them, so they haven't completely killed them off. But, oh, I don't know, this is a difficult one for me. This could have been so good. This could have been like a really good German Bock beer, because that's what it's trying to be. But they just made it too sweet. But it ain't bad. It ain't the worst beer in the world. I will say that. So what's the verdict on Kalnapilis Royal Select? Really didn't know what to expect on this one. I looked at the hops, looked at the malt, and it did talk a good fight. And on first tasting, I was a little bit confused. It didn't go one way or the other. It was just all sweet malt. Eventually the hop character came through, but there was that metallic tinge to it, which it sort of ruined it for me a little bit. And then the sweetness came through, and it was just killing all the hop character for me. It is in there if you really put your mind to it and taste it, but it just hasn't got that moorishness of a good German Bock. However, it is not the worst beer in the world. I have certainly tasted worse, and I've even tasted worse German Bock beers before. So what does that tell you? I don't mind it. They've gone out on a limb. They've used different hops, Eldorado and Select. I don't think in a beer of this calibre, I don't think there's ever, or I've ever come across a beer with them two hops, just them two hops in there. So that was a pretty bold selection. No pun intended. And they've been pretty original using the amber, carrot amber malt as well. But the result is just a beer that for me is a little bit too sweet. And don't get me wrong, Belgian beers have candy sugar added. They're a hell of a lot sweeter. But I know what I'm getting with the Belgian beer. I know why the candy sugar's there. It's there for some flavour, but it's also there for the secondary fermentation as well. And it's there, if it's a high ABV beer, it's there to balance the ethanol flavours out a little bit. But this, the signs were there with the 15 IBUs, because that is really fucking low, which means it's really sweet. And it is. But it isn't an artificial sweetness, if you know what I mean. Now, glucose syrup, it can be way too sweet. If you ever tried Holsten Pils, that is a little bit too sweet for me. The Holsten Pils that's brewed over here, not the stuff that's brewed in Germany. Don't get me started on why they fucking put glucose syrup in it. That fucking annoys me. And a Pilsner. Why would you sweeten a Pilsner? That's what, and it fucking annoys me, because I still go back to that BBC article where some fucking twat, I think it was from Carlsberg, he was moaning at, you know, because when people found out that Stella wasn't actually brewed in Belgium for the British market, it was brewed over here, it brewed in Northampton, and it was almost like you could hear what he was saying, like just a wave of the hand. Oh, people are moaning, it's still the same beer. No, it's fucking not. If you're putting fucking glucose syrup in it, you twat. The Germans wouldn't do that. And relax, calm down. Anyway, back to the beer. What mark am I going to give this? It promised a lot, and it only half delivered. So I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. I can't really give it more, because although it's not the worst beer in the world, and if I had to, I would drink it again. And if it was cheap, you know, if you got this on special offer, then, well, there's more malt coming through now. It's warmed up a little bit, because this was cold. It came out of the fridge. And you know what? There's more hop character coming through now. Maybe my palate's adjusting to it, and it's taking on a little bit more of a character now. I don't know why that is. Maybe because it's warmed up a little bit. Do you know that tastes a little bit better? Wow, just a couple of degrees. This room is really warm. The sun's been beaten down in it all day, and the radiator's been on, so this has warmed up a little bit too quickly. But I am getting a bit more of the hop character coming through now. That's a creeper. I think you've got to let that one warm up a little bit just to get the flavours. It's very sweet on the initial few mouthfuls, but as the palate adjusts, then you'll pick up that hop character. The metallic tinge is still there though, and it's still fucking bugging me. It's like more of a grassy, flowery type flavour now. It's not bitter at all. The sweetness is still there. So there you go. That is Kalnapilis Royal Select. Fucking hell, get me fucking tongue round that one. If you can find it, then get it. I'm sure there are shops in London that will sell this, and anywhere there is a Lithuanian or an Eastern European community. Sadly, not so much now because of Brexit. Certainly a lot of the Poles moved out. I would imagine there are still some Lithuanians and Latvians living in the UK. So hence the reason why this is here. 7 out of 10 recommended. And remember, beer is working class champagne.